Hello, everybody, and welcome to the corner. We got a cool dude with us here today named Andrew from Canada, and also my friend Atle from Norway, who's just AFK for a little bit right now. So, Andrew here has gone independent after having worked some years as a marketing consultant and opened up his own shop. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Andrew?
Yeah, so my current shop is a automation firm. So we work with businesses that have existing processes that are currently powered by humans, and we take the humans out of those processes and replace them with software, so that those humans can do more valuable activity, right? So before this, like you mentioned, I was at a marketing company. I started this marketing company, and I grew it for some time, and then I sold it off to my business partner. And then before that, I was working retail with a 9 to 5 job. Uh, that's I guess the general trajectory over the past 7 years, like summed up in I don't know 30 seconds or so.
All right, so that's like the last 7 years of your life. That was retail, your own marketing firm, and now your own automation firm, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that seems very cool. How was the transition from, having your retail job to deciding to open up your own marketing firm?
Um, Painful. All right. I don't really know how to describe. It was very painful. Um, I started up a marketing firm, and I had near zero experience in sales or management or marketing. Like I had a business partner who was handling some of the marketing stuff. But this was online marketing. For example, SEO. Um, and I don't know if you've ever tried to sell SEO while doing SEO, but it's a competitive space. So you have to find like other areas to sell, right? Like to market and sell the services. And I had no experience in like B2B sales. Like before that, it was retail, right? Who walk in the door, they say what the thing they're looking to buy, you take it for them, you ring them up, etc. So it was painful, and I embarrassed myself in a notable amount of meetings before I kind of, started doing some development and learning how do we do sales, that kind of thing.
Uh,
So
before we go further, can you explain to me what SEO sales is?
yeah, SEO. So it stands for search engine optimization. So it's like when you search something on Google, right? If you're the top result, your search engine optimized, right? So we would work with companies and get them from, not showing up on Google to showing up on the first page, and ideally the first result. But if you Google SEO, right, like every company that's doing SEO is competing for those slots, right? And you've got entire agencies with hundreds of people, trying to take that keyword, and there'd be no way we compete with that. So when I say SEO sales, we had to go and find other ways to reach people, to do sales with them, that isn't the type of marketing that we were doing.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense. It sounds like highly pressurized environment, and to be able to stay on top, to be able to be competing against these other massive firms.
Yeah, it's uh, yes, and that's essentially the reason why I eventually sold it, because I don't love SEO. I grew a company that did it, but I don't love it. So I never want to constantly be in that arms race, right, where you're, just trying to get ahead of the competition. So
So
Yeah.
how has it like evolved from that to what you're doing now? Is, are you more comfortable? Is it less pressurized or?
Um, no. So
Yeah.
once I got out of marketing, I did some like consulting, like marketing consulting for a while, just like on my own. And I worked with some businesses that were doing, attempting some marketing efforts. And these were small businesses; they didn't have a lot of resources to spend on their marketing. So I did what I could to automate their marketing efforts. And pretty soon, they were like, hey, if you could do this with my marketing, can you do this with my operations? And so I would start automating some of their operations, and pretty quickly they, said, hey, I've got more, and hey, meet my friend. He runs this business. Can you automate their stuff? And it kind of just snowballed from there. But until I realized, hey, there's enough business here to make a company out of. But it's the same, I'm going to say, kind of sale, um, in that it's still B2B, right? And it's still like complex, right? Like this is not something you're selling off the shelf, like drop shipping or e-commerce, right? Like you're providing solutions, right? And so I'd say it's the same type of sale, right? But now that I guess that I have more experience in the way this process works, it's not so painful anymore.
All right. Did you have any education regarding what you're doing, or have you just done learning by doing as far as you've gone?
Yeah, learning by doing. I have 1 year of pre-med, like university, before I dropped out.
Yep.
Turns out university is really expensive, and I didn't want to get a bunch of loans to pay for it. So I ran out of money, and I dropped out, and then I started getting I got my job in retail.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, like I'm gonna say personal development stuff. Like there's a lot of enough books out there that you can read to tell you how to do business, right, or teach you how to do sales, right? And then there's
Yep.
enough like personal development courses out there that will train you to sell better or communicate better or manage better or that kind of thing. So I've done a notable chunk of those, and I've read a lot um, to kind of get me out of not knowing what's going on in business.
Yeah. But still, like it's nothing. No school can prepare you for the real thing. And maybe, like in some ways, the way that the path that you've chosen by learning by doing and going the hard way is maybe why you have been able to succeed as far as you have. If you can,
Yeah,
yeah,
there might be some truth to that. I know a lot of people who have gone, through school, right? Got a degree, whether it's, accounting or business administration, or sales, and a chunk of them aren't doing what they learned about with their degree. Um, and the ones that are, they're doing very well, but um, I wouldn't say they're doing anything like exceptional, right? Because once they have a degree in, let's say, sales, like they still have to go out into the field and start making sales, right? Like there's no way around it.
yeah.
Um, so I'd say it's beneficial simply because I've just had the time to make more mistakes than I think my colleagues who have gone through school.
Yeah, for sure, man. You have been able to, more surgically precise where you want to cut instead of just cutting all over before you really know where you want to go, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Atle, do you have anything you want to chip in?
Not at this topic.
Not at this topic.
No,
Okay.
I'm good. But it sounds interesting. And I have to agree that this learning by doing thing, it's underrated, man. Because every people expect you to have some kind of education that they think that that's the only thing that will make you functional in that particular job. And no, that I think it doesn't work that way, because if you work with something and you learn new stuff on how things works, I think sometimes experience is better than what you can have on your resume or your education papers.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, experience and then the ability to think critically.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard recently, but I think it was KPMG, the like accounting consulting firm, like one of the big four.
Mm.
They took off university degrees off the requirements to get a job there.
Oh,
They
that's
said there was
something. Yes, that's very interesting.
they said there was no distinction between like no in terms of performance, people who have university degrees and people who don't. There was no way identifying like who has which based on performance alone. So they
Mm.
said, yeah, there's no point in us qualifying employees by making sure they have degrees. So they said, all right,
Sure.
let's punt it.
That's very interesting. I wish they could do the same thing here in Norway.
Yeah,
That
that's
will be very interesting to see the results on that, because I stand firmly on experience. Like, you have 3 years on school, you're sitting on a bench, listen to people talking about theories and stuff, how you should do your job and how thing works, and then and rather than doing that, you can actually work 3 years, be in that job, experience it, and make your own way how to do that particular job in the way it's supposed to be done. And people, when I ask people who have been working with for years and years, and they get new people coming in, either they have education or they have experience, and most people say we would rather have people here who have the experience than people that are fresh out of school, who had just learned how things are supposed to be but they have never done it.
for sure, for sure. It's also a bunch of at least there in Europe, it's a bunch of like job ads where they require you to have a million gazillion years of experience along with some master's degree in order for you to have a chance to get the job.
Yeah, it's all on the edge. It's just
It's funny you mentioned about like people coming out of school and then getting a job and then telling the other people in the job how things should be, right?
yeah.
Um, I don't know if you know like or if you've dealt much with like I guess consultants, management consultants, accounting consultants, that kind of thing. But they build basically what they do is they'll go to a company, they'll look at what's going on, and then they'll write a report and give a recommendation,
Mm.
right? Um, but they don't actually implement anything, right? So they'll give you we'll say a 30-40 page report, right? Sometimes these reports are read by the company, sometimes they're not, but they'll give you a report and they'll say this is what you need to do in order to go from where you are to blah 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 blah, some other point in the future that you said you want to get to, but they never actually implement any of this. And it's funny that colleges and universities are outputting people who behave this way, right? That they'll come into your business and tell you how it needs to, how it should work, but not actually know how to change anything from where it is to where it needs to be.
Yeah. Like, like if it's coming some fresh out of school kid and then going to tell some dude who's been in the company for 50 years how
Yeah,
things
I was
works.
just thinking about that, because take me for example. I've been working in kindergarten, preschool, and now I'm working on junior high, and I have a lot of experience, but I don't have the complete education on it. And I've been working with kids with special needs, and we know how to deal with those kids and what we need to do, how to get through the day and do the plans and everything that needs to be done. And then suddenly some fresh kid from school is taking this education to how to deal with these particular kids, and they start to run up things and do things completely different. And we are supposed to tell them that that doesn't work, because we have done this for many years. Just try to listen here. And like, no, 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 I learned this on school. The teacher told me this is how things work. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. And they're stubborn and say, yes, this does, and I'm the boss. I'm just gonna do what I think is right because this is what I've been taught at school. And when you do that, things just fall together and all hell breaks loose. It happened so many times. it's it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ever read the Lean Startup?
No, I haven't.
I have a red lean startup. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lean Startup's great, right? They kind of are talking about this, thing that we're talking about now, where like a startup is going to need to test and experiment with how they do things, right? And then if a company has gone stagnant, it's because they're not, innovating in their processes, right? So,
Yep.
we all like to rip on, you know, fresh out of school, university students getting their first job. I think there's some value in having those students, or I guess new employees, tell us what to do, knowing that hey, at some point, like they're going to make a lot of mistakes, but if we can innovate even slightly here, it's
Yep.
going to pay for itself, right? Like, I think we're all in the same boat of like, hey, we didn't go the traditional, school, university, internship, job route, but there's, I think, still a value in having, people who have been traditionally educated, tell us what to do or experiment with what they're suggesting themselves, and either they find a new and better way to do it, or they fall on their face, and we all learn something about it.
Of course, but
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
I also expect from those people to also be open-minded. To those of us who actually been doing this for many years, but it sometimes just seems that they have this initial battle plan they're going to pull through, and everything that we say is complete rubbish because they just say, "Oh, well, you don't have the education, but I do, so you're just gonna listen to me now." Uh, that doesn't make any sense for me because you have to respect both ways.
Well,
You have to respect those people who actually have been doing this for many years to come and help you with the suggestions and all that.
yeah, but
Just thinking that you're going to pull through everything because you went through school.
a lot of people like this, they use their education level as a pedestal and views themselves higher than the rest of the flock,
Yeah, sure,
and
but
that's the wrong way
you
to
have
do
to
it.
be ignorant and arrogant about everything.
Of course not. But I just think that's a human thing.
Yeah, of course, that's a completely human thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that really depends on what kind of job you're in.
Yep. Uh, um, did Henry Ford, regarding the lean the lean startup, did Henry Ford have an education?
I don't know. I haven't read much into Henry Ford.
Because there was a lot about in it in the lean startup, of between Ford and Toyota, right? And how Toyota eventually managed to overhaul Ford regarding the building of cars, because Toyota automated the process of making the cars, and that's
Yeah,
like, yeah.
I've read much more into the way Toyota did things than I have Ford, right? I think Ford did something very nice when cars were coming out, right? Like
Yep.
new, and they dropped the price down so that they could become affordable. The Toyota way, lean manufacturing, came out because they realized that hey, someone who's really close, like close to a problem, can suggest and implement the solution here,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that's essentially what made lean so effective. Is the person who drills, or screws on lug nuts, 8 hours a day is probably the expert on the fastest way to screw on lug nuts.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why Toyota won instead of Ford, because Ford believed more in the traditional way of having men assembling the lug nuts and the car parts, right?
Yeah, well, Ford's assembly line was designed by a manager, and then told to assembly line workers how it needs to be done,
Yep.
and that gets you so far, right? But eventually it just starts breaking down because there's so many things that need constant attention, right?
Yep.
That one manager it doesn't stand a chance, right?
I follow you.
So I think that was the big difference between the two. Just that Ford it was top down management, and then Toyota it was bottom up management.
Yeah.
Of at least the optimization of the assembly line. Right?
Yeah. By the way, I just looked it up. He did have an education. He was an apprentice as a machinist. But still, that's what does that equal? Machinist equals, tradesman skill, I guess.
Yeah, I think at the time that may have been significant though.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
yeah.
The machines were new, right? I think that the modern day version of that's like the programmer,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, I went and did a 18-month course, or academy where I learned JavaScript,
Yeah.
right? And that should give you enough expertise to build the next Ford, right? Next Ford company is
Yeah,
quick,
Yeah, I was just going to say that, having the 18 months course in how to script the JavaScript would maybe have been essential to getting a job when all this was new, when Java was just starting out and stuff. And the same back then when he became a machinist, that was the pioneer time of the industrial, what do you call it? The Industrial Revolution. Since we began having cars, steam machines, and all and more stuff became run by machines at this time. Definitely yeah. Definitely an interesting time to live in, regarding that you would go from, I don't know, a world where you didn't have all these kind of things, where you were used to traveling by horseback, and then the next year you have cars coming out, and the following years after this you have more and more T-Fords and stuff running down the streets.
Yeah, if you ever read Ray Kurzweil's, like any of his work where he talks about like the rate of change of technology.
No, it sounds interesting.
So let's take this example, a good example. Going from horses to cars.
Yeah.
Right? Like that transition. We had horse-drawn carts for thousands of years, and then we had cars, and I think the car 100, maybe 200 years old. I don't really know, but 100 something ish years, right? And before the plane came out. I don't know how long after the plane came out, but it was certainly a lot shorter than the time between carts and the car. And
Yeah.
Ray Kurzweil talks about how as technology gets better, the speed in which technology gets better gets faster, right? Like it's this exponential curve where your cell phone's a good example of this, right? Whenever actually, I don't know if cell phones would be a great example of this, but computers in general, like as computers get better, they can design better computers to make better computers so that they can design better computers. And he talks about eventually we're going to get to a point in which technology is advancing so quickly that there will be new technologies that don't exist yet to help us keep up with the change in technology. So,
That's very true.
said differently, imagine there was a tool that helped us learn how to drive every time a new type of car came out, every minute and a half, kind of thing, right? Like that's the rate of speed he ends up talking about. It'll be so advanced that the gap between the carts and the car happens in fractions of a second.
Yeah, I follow.
Whatever happened to that slow down and stop and smell the roses rather than rush through things? I mean, come on, give us time to enjoy what we have rather than invent some new stuff that we need to rush into.
It is the human way to rush into and
Yeah,
invent new
it's really
things.
human way
Yeah,
actually. If you've
yeah.
been paying attention through the history, people are rushing through every kind of invention and progressing and changing and man, that will be the end of us.
Oh, look at the timeline. We have the 1900 first cars. I don't know when exactly the first car came out, but I believe it was like in the late 1800s that you had the first Ford. And then in the 1900s, it's starting to become like a little more and more normal. But my point was just that in the first 50 years of the, how do you say that in English, the 18th century is the 1900s, right? Yeah. So the first 50 years goes like fairly slow, right, regarding advancements in technology until we hit World War II in 1939, where we really get pushed since we have to keep up and we have to join the race and beat the Germans, right? And I guess like that's when we really make some advancements regarding making faster planes and all that stuff. But it's first after World War II where we have been able to get over this technology curve and being able to develop things at a faster speed. And then we get the cell phone, and when in the 1970s, 1980s, where they look like some freakishly long American brick, right? And who then in 1980 would have thought, that that you're all going to wear phones in 40 years from now on the size of a small 8-track.
Well, it's not just your phone that you're holding now, right? Like that's
No, yeah.
Phone has more computing power than the entire world had in the 80s.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
And it's anyway. So this Ray Kurzweil guy, he talks about the singularity and how let's take the cell phone as an example. That gap between the 80s to now is the how big that technological change was is going to happen in the next 5 years, right? Versus 20 or 50 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to get faster, right?
Yeah.
And he has a book out called "Singularity is Near," and he predicts that by 2040 or 2050 or something, humans will be obsolete because the rate of increase of computational power will be larger than that of a human intelligence every fraction of a second.
Damn.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Well, what do you think 2040 will look like then? We will be able to implement, upgrades to ourselves.
Clones.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even going to begin to guess what it's going to look like at that point, right? Like, when we talk about sci-fi, like, crazy sci-fi stuff, what do we talk about? Implants, clones, mind uploading. Like Elon Musk has that brain-to-brain communication startup already, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's look at the timeline for that. It's going to take 5 years to develop, right? Another 2 years to hit mass market. So in 10 years, it'll be, rather than having a cell phone in her hand, it's going to be brain-to-brain communication.
Yeah.
Right? Can you think of a technology that would be after that?
No. No, I can't.
Yeah, it'd be crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There'd be no way. It would be
Yeah.
it would be sci-fi beyond what anyone could imagine, right? Just like
Yeah.
if you showed someone in the 80s your cell phone, like they couldn't imagine anything after that.
No. No, that was the no. They thought that was the peak of technology, right? With that type cell phone, yeah.
Eventually, I'm going to have this thing in my hand that tells me all the answers that we have in the world.
Yeah.
Great. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
I actually believe it. If you ever watched that TV show, what was it called? Carbon.
Altered carbon.
Altered carbon.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I kind of like that idea that you can imprint like your past self, or imprint like make sure that you know everything that's basic all around the world, like intelligence and all that. Just instead of going to school and learn on the hard way, you can just put something in your head and it will make you super smart or something like that.
Yeah, but I believe that 40 years from now there won't be much of a school. It will just be like a fucking USB port to your head or something. Yeah, 40-45 years from now.
Maybe for those who get a lot of money, maybe.
No, I don't think so. I think like
This is really interesting because when you look at the economics of emerging technologies, right? Like when we first started talking about cars, they were very expensive.
Yep.
Right? And someone came around and did something to drive the costs down. Right?
Yeah.
We all have a cell phone right now, right? It's not just the rich, right?
No.
Everyone has them. Like they're getting them in India, right? So if we talk about 10, 15 years in the future, which is actually when this technology will be coming out, like mind uploading or brain-to-brain communication, that kind of stuff. It's going to be affordable for most people because that's the only way to make it economic to develop. Right? Like it's not going to make sense if, hey, we can only sell this to billionaires and there's only, I don't know, 1,000 billionaires worldwide. Like that's not enough market size to develop these kinds of technologies.
No, that's what I was going to say, Andrew.
Forever, so I'm pretty sure there's many rich guys out there who will willingly just throwing money just to have something that will make them immortal.
I was going to say that when the technology comes out, then sure, maybe it will be expensive. Kind of like how cell phones in 19. Hold up, Atle. Like when cell phones came out in 1980, a cell phone was like maybe. I think a cell phone in 1980 was like a year's salary, like a year's average salary for a cell phone. And when this comes out, maybe it will be like expensive at first, but it won't take long before the price drops because it will become more competitors on the market making the same technology, forcing the price down in order to compete.
Yeah, I just looked it up. The first mobile phone cost $100 million to develop. The Dynatac.
Yeah.
8,000X, $100 million to develop.
Yeah, and that is in that time's currency, so you can time that money to at least like a 10 for inflation. So that would be like $1 billion in today's money.
Yeah, let's check that to today inflation. Let's see exactly how much that would be.
I'm guessing like 950 mil.
Let's see. Okay, so 100 million. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Calculate. and this online calculator says that would be 250 million
There.
in today's money.
Imagine that inflation rate, man. Yeah.
I think by the time like this, these are problems that we need to deal with. Reducing the price of living forever. These would be good problems to have, right? Like, let's not complain about just rich people having them. Like, if the problem is, I gotta save 9 months' salary so that I can live forever. That's I'm willing to save 9 months' salary to do that.
Yeah, everybody would.
That depends on the question on people. Like, what would you give to live forever, and what state would you live forever?
I would entertain the idea that you could. Have you seen Black Mirror, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would entertain the idea, like in your Black Mirror, that you could upload your brain to a server and enter a world of your choosing where you will live forever.
Yeah.
That
Will it be true forever, or would it just be a copy of your conscience?
I think it will be you. It will be you because
It will be you, but will be a copy of you. I mean, what?
no, it won't be.
The true self.
Because when you upload it, that's also when you die, right? That's when they hit the kill switch on the old woman.
Yeah, I always had that problem when I see those kind of things, like Oliver Carbons. I mean, they make copies of themselves, but I always picture them that copy will die, because when you create a copy, that will become you, but your own you. And when that thing dies, and you just make another copy, who would technically be a new person. It's very difficult to understand.
There's a problem in philosophy. I don't know what this particular problem is called, but it discusses like the essence of something. So let's say, not so much a soul, but like what makes something unique, like uniquely that thing. So the example that we have is, let's say we have a ship, like a boat, right? Mm. And this boat's on the water, and over time I find something, like a screw loose, right? So I unscrew that screw and I put a new screw in there, right? And I save the original screw. And over time I replace all the parts in the ship, all the original parts, with new, like more recent versions, right? Whether it's floor planks or light bulbs or screws, like eventually the entire ship has been replaced one part at a time. Right?
Yeah, but
I saved all the parts.
You didn't die to live forever. But like we discussed earlier, when you hit the kill switch, as Patty said, I mean, that thing that was before died completely, while you're talking about an upgrade. I mean,
So what happens then if I have all the original parts for this ship? What happens if I use those original parts and make the original ship? And now I have two ships, right? One made with the original parts, and one made that had originally was that ship, but we just upgraded it over time, right? Which one is actually the ship?
The old one.
I will say
the old one, right?
First one.
So I think this is an ontological problem, and the trick with these kinds of problems is not to look closely. Because if you look at it, like, they're just ships, right? Like, if you like give one of them, hey, this is the ship, and that one is just a copy, right? Like, it's a moot point. They're just ships.
Yep.
Right? Yes. And so if you look closely, then you kind of get by these questions. But the trick is just don't look closely.
Yeah, I can follow that.
This is totally normal, and everyone is like on the same page as you.
I can follow.
And you're ignoring the very thing that we talked about that what being you is you, and what's being a copy is a copy.
Yeah, but here's the golden rule. It is that there is no problem until there is a problem. And until there is... right.
know,
The
one of these
Phantom
is a
Menace.
copy.
The Phantom Menace.
Funny.
I understand your logical thinking, but of course it depends on people's certain point of view when it comes to life after life and how they describe themselves as an eternal being. Like if I was making a clone of myself, and when I die, that clone will activate. Will that make me immortal, or will that just make that clone a different person who has the same thing traits as me?
You would still exist in one way or the other.
I would
It's the
exist, but I
same.
wouldn't be me, if you know what I mean.
It's the same. It's the same as if you were to die now, you still exist in some way, either as matter
I
in
would
another
still
universe,
feel the
or
icy cold hands of death. I will still feel that.
no,
No?
no.
So I will still die. I will feel the trauma and the death, the life slipping away from my body. And I can rest assured in my dying breath that some part of me will live on. It will be the same thing as having a child, in a
Uh,
way.
well, no, no,
Part of you
no.
will still exist forever. Your blood, your DNA will
I don't think like that. And I have a kid.
Yeah, you have a
Yeah,
kid, but
that
if you die now, you die, but you don't think I will still live on in my kid.
no, but my kid is not me,
No, exactly, it's
right?
not you.
And I know that. But I get what you're saying. Like maybe a lot of people have kids because they because they feel like some part of them somehow continue to live on.
Maybe I'll be reborn in the next life circle, you know?
Uh,
Yeah, I understand that, but I still think that even though if I made a clone of myself and have my personality blueprinted to activate in that clone when I die, I will still think that I will die, but this clone will just come alive and have my traits and personality, but it wouldn't be me. It would just be some shell of mine. It
you
wouldn't be
should
me.
you should
I wouldn't
still.
transfer unless they figure out how to translate your brain or your head
Man,
or your.
you should still embrace this technology when it comes, and you should accept it instead of living in this old school life that you're trying to live. So
I
desperately
just don't
clinging on
see
to.
how it will gain me because as long as I know I will die and this fake person me would take over and live my life just as I lived. But living the same life as I lived it wouldn't make it me because I am me and you are you. You know, you know what I mean?
Why are you making it into such a problem?
It's not a problem.
This
It's just very philosophical and diplomat and
No,
philosophy. Is
no.
I don't know. I don't. It just.
this 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 is really interesting because the philosophical thing you're debating centers around I'm going to describe it as an obsessed self, right? Is it me? Does it count as me? You know, does it look like me? But it's like this weird obsession of self, right? And I wondering how useful that would be in like public dialogue when we discuss these technologies, right? Is the human obsession with self really helpful when we're thinking about having people live forever, right?
No, it's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not useful either.
No, it's not. It's not useful or healthy. You shouldn't obsess of things that isn't a problem.
Exactly. Right? If people can live forever, even if it's not them, in the grand scheme of things, is that individual's sense of self really that helpful, right?
Yeah.
If we can all live forever and
But
moving forward.
honestly, if someone come up to you and ask if you want to live forever, I can give you the power to live forever. Would you say yes or no?
Yes,
You say no.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course. You wouldn't say no because I don't think that will benefit society, so I'm just gonna decline on that offer. Of course you're gonna say yes. I want to live forever. I want to see what's going on in this world. I want to live forever. Everybody would do that.
Yep.
Screw the society.
Yeah.
I mean, if it goes under, it's not my fault. I'm just gonna stay here and watch it all happen.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, man. Like, don't worry about the problem before there is one. Like, you see, like a bunch of dudes on. You see, you see a bunch of guys on YouTube. I saw like a YouTube video today where there was astrophysicists, professors, and stuff that were saying that aliens are coming, and we don't know if they're coming here to destroy us. Because they mean that or think that somehow, some way, in the galaxy or in another galaxy, there is aliens that has been able to evolve 1,000,000 years longer than us, and thus have the technology and advancements necessary to build ships to reach us, right? But why is this a problem to worry about now, unless they are here, right?
Right.
They're already here.
That one's a funny one because before we were talking about the singularity, right? If a species had 5,000 years on us, right? Like they developed the transistor, or computer chips, just 5,000 years before we did. Their technology would be so far ahead, like they'd be indistinguishable from gods, right?
Yeah.
So, if there were aliens out there that wanted to destroy us, we wouldn't stand a chance, right? And if there are aliens out there that don't want to destroy us, then we can pretty much just ignore them. And if there's no aliens, then there's no aliens. But in any of these situations, it's really best to just bury your head in the sand and ignore it, because it won't make you feel good at all.
No, for sure.
Ask yourself, why would aliens attack us? Why now?
Well, that's an interesting question. It is. Have you read the book *Sapiens*? It's about it's about how we were in the Stone Ages and stuff, where we would move in flocks, and if we saw another tribe, the response wouldn't be to try and talk to the other tribe. It would be to try and kill the other tribe. So one of the tribes would die, and the next would move on. This is how we would move on, because every human that we encountered, except that wasn't in our tribe, we would view as a potential threat, right?
Yeah, but now we're talking about stupid people.
No, but it's the same. It's the same aspect, like maybe for aliens, because they don't know if we're hostile, and if they have been watching us, if they have been watching humans through a microscope or something like that, they would think, my God, these guys are complete assholes, tearing up their.
This is really funny because the metaphor you're rolling with is two tribes, human tribes in the Serengeti, right?
Yeah.
And you're assuming that these are roughly equal, intelligent, species, right? But we should be looking at this like humans and ants, right? Or humans and locusts or something, some insect, right? Now. Yeah. In the spare time I have, sometimes I like to buy and sell futures contracts, right? Futures financial instrument, right? You're basically buying the winnings or losings of I typically work with agriculture, right? So I'll buy corn while it's being planted, and then participate in the winning. Now, to me, it's very important that corn doesn't get eaten by pests. Right, so pesticides being sprayed on that corn is important for my bottom line, right?
Yep.
Because crickets or an anthill by the corn I've bought, right? Are they particularly important? Do I care about those ants? No, I just need them out of the way. It's a minor inconvenience for something that any particular or that group of ants could never possibly understand. They couldn't fathom the idea of agriculture, let alone the futures market, right? Or specifically my interest in the futures market. So if an alien species would destroy us, hey, we got to get these guys out of the way, it wouldn't be because we're annoying or we're a threat or anything like that, it's going to be because of some reason that no one could possibly think of. Like we couldn't fathom, how our existence might be a minor inconvenience to something that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you really
that's
gotta
true.
look at it like that kind of scope, right? This is not two tribes of humans. This is humans and ants, right?
Yeah, this
And I
is
just need the ants to get out of the way so I can get a profit on my futures contract.
yeah,
But
where
here comes the big question, because when you say future contract, you mean like the aliens will take our world and use our world as their own and take the resource.
no, don't you get the metaphor?
Listen this. I get the meaning, but if they really have watched us for this long, they know we have mass destructive weapons. If an alien were to invade our world, don't you think we would have thrown everything we have at them? And just by doing that, we would crack the world in two. The world would be inhabitable. There would be nothing left after an alien attack.
Sure.
The aliens wouldn't need our world because there would be nothing there to take. Everything would just be completely eradicated and gone.
That's right, like 100.
Destroy everything.
Nah. Yeah,
And give up.
I don't know, man. Like even if all 100 something nukes went off in the world, I still don't think it will be enough to completely fuck up the planet.
Or it will damage the critical. Trust me.
It will damage it critically, yeah, but it won't be enough to fuck up the planet.
Now, if they will eradicate every
Like,
human being, they have to
you know,
do something that will destroy life on Earth, and that will destroy everything else on Earth.
Sure. So you're like saying that if we can't fucking destroy you, we'll just turn the gun on ourselves and fuck this place up.
Most likely, we would try. It will most likely be with space battles. Sure, they will bombard us, maybe just destroy everything, but there will be so much for them to destroy that will leave quite a big mark on Earth. And if they were to engage us in grand battle or anything else close to an atmosphere, we will use everything we got to do. Most likely, just destroy everything that will make it breathable in our world. Nothing. There will
Yep.
be nothing left. Everything will just die out because we will just rip the planet in half.
Okay, how
I don't
about
think they will benefit from that.
this then? What if they're making an intergalactic highway, and Earth is just some piece of shit in the middle of the world? I mean,
Just need Earth to move a little to the left so we can put the pavement down.
yeah.
Well, then they wouldn't need our world, so why not just destroy it?
Yeah, exactly. They would.
They're going to use our world for something that they wanted. But if you
Cool,
bring
let's-
it like that, I mean, it just sounds really fucking stupid. Just around. You could just be a left. I mean, you could just stop and you just make a left or right turn and space. I mean,
Because this is the charted path of the new space highway.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In all fairness, though, all life will end eventually, but it's gonna take a few thousand trillion years or so.
Everybody says that. I mean, is it really that true that everything is just gonna end because someone just say it's all going to end? The end is near. I mean,
Oh well, yes.
at the end is near from the dawn of time. People have been screaming the end is near. And
Like
a
that-
million years in the future, and people are still screaming that the end is near. I mean, are you sure we're going to end, or are we just going to?
Yeah.
Like,
Of course.
here, we are here. There's something new going to come after us. I mean, I'm completely sold out on everything is just going to be gone forever. I mean,
For look at it this way, the sun is a star, right?
yeah.
It's a burning star,
Yeah, I know it's
and all stars burn up eventually. So eventually, the sun will turn into what do you call it? A white dwarf. And eventually the white dwarf will turn into a black dwarf, and all light will go out. And the second the Earth, I'm sorry, the sun turns into a white dwarf, then all life ends, pretty much. But still, man, this is not near in the future. This is like trillions upon trillions of years in the future, and this scenario where this happens is not for the whole universe. This is, as far as we know, only in this galaxy.
I'm pretty sure about that time we either find a way to refuel the sun, or we have moved on to other planets and starting to repopulate.
Yeah, our galaxies, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I believe that.
This is one of those problems that, again, I don't look too closely at, because there's too many options that don't feel good. So I'll just bury my head in the sand.
Yeah, okay. Still, there's always a solution to a problem, and this is, trillions of years in the future. Who knows if even humans will be alive a trillion years from now?
I'm pretty sure we alive in some kind of form. I have a feeling we have left our marks so much in our galaxy, at least, that it will just be unimaginable thinking of that there wouldn't be any humans left.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. All right, we've had a great time here. We are coming up on an hour in our podcast here, so I'm going to wrap it up here. And we're going to say thank you for joining us, Andrew and Atle.
Yeah.
And I'll be short.
For bringing me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. And I hope to do this again soon, sometime. I will link your company in the description if you want.
Great. Excellent. Yep. I like it.
No problem, man. And then I'll just say until next time and enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.